Well, here I am again with the internet connection that goes a bit faster than a ruptured snail. So I'll get straight into the questions. First one is from Darren Goldsmith. He begins with the comment, "Oh, returning to the polity, check and yay." Then moves on, "But will we get more Spatterjay? Please say yes." I imagine that as I continue writing polity books, characters you've seen in or read about in Spatterjay will turn up. Undoubtedly there'll be the odd old captain or wardrome like Sniper might turn up again. Whether I actually go back to Spatterjay, always the same with questions like these, I don't know. When I sit down and write, I just write. It's not a great deal of planning goes on. Friezo then asks, do you plan to introduce any other extant alien races into the polity universe apart from the Praedor? Well, one already has been reintroduced, if you like, in the form of the Athata, the Gabbleducks. Whether I do any more, again, it's like the previous question, I don't know. If something appeals to me, if I get some ideas, then we may see something more. It'll have to be weird, of course. Zanaris asks, I don't know if I pronounced that right, but he asks, is Raki a good source of inspiration? It's a good way of destroying brain cells, but whether it's a source of inspiration, no, I don't think so. What is a good source of inspiration is the place where I drink it, in Crete, because I'm having new experiences, seeing new things, learning new stuff, and that generates ideas. Jay then asks, slow down here, okay. Jay asks, how was your experience of self-publishing with Amazon? Do you think you'll keep at it? Well, the experience was pretty good. It's a very good way of releasing something, well, something that's old, like the Parasite, and I will probably at some point in the future, in fact I have it prepared, release Mind Games Fool's Mate as an ebook on Amazon. But books for Macmillan first. Maybe, I was thinking that as I have the time, if and when I have the time, I'll do the odd 40,000 word, 50,000 word novella and put it through Amazon and carry on like that. Always a good idea not to have all your eggs in one basket. Lord Ware asks, do you keep a file or notebook to keep track of details in your polity works or owner or other works, or do you do it mostly from memory? For example, do you have notes of polity planets, details about the characters, etc., or do you find it easier to freeform when writing and work from memory? Well, it's the last. I find it easier to freeform and write from memory. Though of course I do remind myself of things if I am writing a book which has quite a strong connection to something previously. Like when I wrote The Technician, before I wrote The Technician, I reread the Line of Polity to get some of the details of the planet Masada back into my head. No, not very much in the way of notes. Now, Laszlo here has quite a long comment and question, for which I'm afraid there's just going to be a short answer. The Departure came out early September in the UK. It was available in all formats, but since getting a Kindle this summer, I wanted to grab the electronic version. while it's right there for purchase at a click of a mouse on Amazon UK, on Amazon.com and Amazon CA, Canada, it wasn't, and still isn't available. At the same time, days after its UK release, it was available for download for free off the net, from the pirates obviously. As a huge fan of your work, having published so far everything, it is so extremely disappointing to see that in the 21st century, with all this technology, I could not legitimately buy and support your work with a couple of clicks of the mouse. But I'm sure I could be reading your book with a couple of clicks, doing it the illegal way. Has the publishing industry not learned anything from the lessons of the music industry of the past decade? Anyway, just thought I'd get your take on it as an insider to the publishing world and its workings. Well, I'm not really an insider to the publishing world and its workings. I'm a writer, but I delegate. So I write a book, I give it to the publisher, and I leave it to the publisher to publish it, sell it, and distribute it. I don't know about why this was not on Amazon in Canada or Amazon in America. It's the kind of question best directed towards the publishers. But I must say, publishers publish to make money, not because of some wonderful love of books. So they must be aware of the situation with electronic publishing and so on. I mean, don't assume that they're not. Maybe they're just hedging their bets until such a time as it starts to go wrong, as it did with the music industry, their way of doing things. Making as much money while the sun shines until such a time as things change. I don't know. Best direct your questions to them. To the D asks, what's your personal stance on the Fermi paradox, and how is this reflected in your writing? I've always thought that true aliens would be exactly that, too alien to communicate with. I've had many thoughts on this, and actually some of it's coming out in the new books. I mean, one thought I've had on the Fermi paradox is that, where are they? Is that paradox? Is that they probably destroyed themselves through stupidity. I mean, we seem to be doing it. Other thoughts, it is very, very big out there, so there could be thousands of civilizations and the messages might not even reached us yet. The forms of communication could all be so different. I mean, we use various little narrow bands on radio and so forth. I mean, one thought is, was it the spectrum of hydrogen or something? They might be communicating on that. And if you look into something like SETI and find out just how little of what is out there that they've actually looked at, I think your answers lies there somewhere. I mean, yes, going on. Another one that I've covered in recent books, which are not published yet, is the possibility of going on for, I don't remember if it's Fermi or Drake, who growing up in the nuclear era, the Cold War era, assumed that the aliens had probably destroyed themselves with atomic weapons. The thing is, as time goes on, we realise that there are even more ways to destroy ourselves, so maybe that. Now, Phil M. Welcome back to, Civilization. Who chooses the book covers and how did John Sullivan get involved? Right, first question that is. Who chooses them? You have a cover designer at Macmillan. They have some sort of idea that what they want to do, what kind of theme they want to do. You may notice with the departure and with the ensuing books, they're leaning more towards doing a landscape kind of thing. Maybe to try and get people to take me more seriously. The cover designers, whatever, will then employ an artist. And they chose John Sullivan, which I'm very glad about, because he's very, very good. Oh, and also, they may have a vague idea of the theme and so on, but John Sullivan then contacts me to see if I can select out a few paragraphs from the books to give him an idea of the said scene. And Phil goes on, what made you pick Crete for a summer residence? Summer residence, that sounds posh. It was just a case of I had enough money to get a place abroad, didn't really want a bigger house in England or a bigger car or any of those daft things. I've always liked the Greek Isles, and Caroline likes them as well. And we picked Crete because it was the largest of them, the furthest south, and because it has cities on it, so actually getting hold of stuff is a lot easier. I mean, if you were to go on one of the smaller Greek islands, I mean, just buying a fridge or something like that becomes a bit of a nightmare, because it might have to be shipped in. So that's why we chose Crete. And it was a very quick decision as well. It's not like we had lots of holidays there or anything. But then again, when you're in your 50s and so on, you have to make quick decisions. You can't run around all over the world going, maybe I'll try this place, maybe this will be the place to do, or this, before you know it, you're too old to do it. Now, last one, I think, space opera Ghost. Have you seen, read Ghost in the Shell? And if so, have you enjoyed it? No, short answer. With any media, at what point does bad writing, campy or terrible special effect outweigh the quality of a good story? I do mean this for all sorts of media. What makes you put down a book despite wanting to know what happens next? I have tried to watch Red Dwarf, but everything is so immersion-breakingly bad, I can't stand it. Okay. Well, trouble is, there's a bit of a contradiction there. It's what makes you put down a book despite wanting to know what happens next? Well, if I want to know what happens next, I don't put down the book. Generally, what makes me put down a book is boredom, plain and simple. Campy, terrible special effects. Again, if they're too campy and the special effects are too terrible, if you like, I won't want to know what happens next. Yeah, generally boredom. Oh, just as a side note, I watched an episode of Red Dwarf last night, as it happens. Very, very silly, but enjoyable. Just one of those things that you mustn't take too seriously. Final question from Space Opera Ghost. How do you prefer to imbibe your raki? In a Caravaggio, which is a small glass bottle. It's how it's served in the cafenions in Crete. Chilled, poured into a small shot glass, and very nice it is too. Okay, that's all for now. Bye.